Hello, welcome to today's webinar arranged by us on Developer Shore. My name is Jonas Jacobsen and I work here as a sales manager. If this is the first time that you're attending to one of our webinars or are in contact with us on Developer Shore, I can briefly tell you that we are a remote development company with our developers from the Eastern European countries. We have a community of about 800 plus developers that helps our clients in both long-term, full-time positions, but also on short-term or part-time projects. If you would like to know more about how we work, how we help our clients, and how our process looked like, you're more than welcome to get in contact with me or Developer Shore after this webinar. Now, without any further ado, let me pass it on to today's speaker. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Developer Shore, for the invitation. I am super happy to thank you all for attending, both you that are here live now and also you that will attend and look into the webinar afterwards at the YouTube channel of Developer Shore. I am very happy to speak to you about a topic that is very close to heart, and that is the one of creating inclusivity and involvement in teams when working remote. My name is Stina Odlingson, and I have a background in rhetoric and communicative leadership. I have taught rhetoric at Örebro University, and I have actually also worked at an anti-discrimination bureau to teach how to create inclusive work environments. As many of you also are, I am a constant student, so I have studied psychology, I have studied entrepreneurship, Italian, all of these fun stuff to make as good of a background as possible, and also project management within IT. Today, I will combine all of these fields of knowledge to give you my top advices of how to create inclusivity and involvement when working remote. It is harder to make everyone feel part of the team. It is harder to understand how people are feeling. And it is also harder to understand how everything is going for everyone. So I hope that with this webinar, you will get some ideas of how to do it and to improve. We will soon dive into the webinar and the content of it. But first, I want to briefly speak about RetorIT and why I am the one speaking about these things here today. RetorIT came actually from the sector itself. It was a couple of friends of me that said, hey, what you know we need, please come and teach us. And maybe some of you have had this idea that it starts just as a seed and then it grows and grows and grows, and it's harder to ignore it. That was what happened with RetorIT, and that is also why I created it, because the more I spoke with people within IT, the more they said that I was needed there and here with you guys. So I created RetorIT, that is the rhetoric consultant for IT companies. I give lectures, workshops, coaching, webinars, all of these different communicative things to help people improve their communication within the company, within the teams, and also when it comes to self-leadership. Please look at my webpage, RetorIT.com, if you are interested. And I can help you with eliminate communication mistakes. I also help to create better feedback cultures in teams. I create better work environments where more people can feel included, just like we are talking about today, and also minimize destructive conflicts. I also help with creating better demos. a bunch of different things, but in summary, one can say that I help people feel safer when having demos and speaking in front of others. I make it easier to talk with the customers and clients, and I also help to create a good communication climate in the teams. That is brief what I speak about. Now let's dive into the webinar, right? Today, we will speak first about the theory behind creating understanding. Because when we work in teams, we want to be able to understand each other. And then it's important to understand the theory behind it. We will talk about how to make people feel included and what concrete we can do. Common communication mistakes that can occur when speaking and talking with each other, both completely remote but also hybrid, because after the pandemic has become less and less, more people go back partly to work, and then also hybrid situations are very common. We will end with some one-liners that will help to create involvement when having meetings, when speaking with other people, things that will make them seen and heard, and also will help to make people engaged in the team. I will also ask you to be involved throughout the webinar. So you will use the chat function to write answers to questions that I will send out, and also general thoughts. Please get involved here with me. There is no thought that is bad to bring up. And if I see that time is running out or I have to continue in the webinar, then I will say that. So you write what you think, write the questions that you have, and then it's up to me to make sure that we stay on time today. Also, please let me know if it's something that you want me to clarify, if I speak too fast, if it's something that you don't understand. Write in the comments and I will try to clarify things and make sure that everyone gets to be a part of this webinar. I hope it sounds like a good idea. We will end around 12:45, 12:50 today, and we will have a space for questions in the end as well. But if you have any during the webinar, please let me know. My first question to you is, why is it important to make everyone feel included in the team? Please write in the comments. You have a couple of minutes to write down any type of thought. Why is it important that we make people feel included in the team, even if they are sitting and doing their work, even if they are doing the coding that they should, even if they are meeting the deadlines? Why do we still need to make people feel included and involved when speaking in the meetings? Anyone that wants to test the thought? We want them to stay and feel appreciated and seen. Absolutely. It's a lot of it's very important to make people feel like they want to stay in the team and at the company. Hiring costs are very, very high. Some more thoughts. We want them to feel appreciated and seen. If you come up with more things, then here we have some. If you feel included, you feel more motivated. Good. Feeling like you can affect your own situation and work is a very important factor to be satisfied at your workplace. Absolutely. Great. Perfect. So here we have a bunch of different reasons why it is important to feel included in the team. Some other things that we will go into is that it's connected to the creation of understanding. And I will explain this. We want the team to continue to bring new ideas and to understand more and more, to know more and more about the product, the service, and then to make sure to create new knowledge. So then we will look at how we create understanding. So when we create understanding, that's where these new ideas come. The science of creating understanding is that we have a horizon of understanding, and that is what we know about the world. It is things that we have studied. It is things that comes from the culture that we're in. It's things that comes from the media, things that we think this is how it is. It can also be, for example, our programming language. We know how it works. Then we have what another person know, and that can be things that we take in when we read studies, when we speak with other people, all of these things. When these two things come together, that is when new understanding is created. So when we work in teams and we have a lot of different perspectives, and those are being vocalized, that we speak about the different thoughts that we have on a question, then we will create new understanding and new perspectives. And it's also from there that we get new ideas. It will create better solutions, better ideas, and better quality of our work if everyone is included and feel like they can speak. How much of what we think that we should share of our knowledge is partly dependent on which country we come from. And this is because the organizational culture differs from country to country. So if you're trying to make a team with a lot of different nationalities, it is important to know that cultural factors can affect how much we dare to speak in the team meeting itself, and how well the communication works. To understand more about these different cultural dimensions, one can look at Hofstede's cultural dimension. And I want to mention that this is a theory that has gotten some criticism because it is generalizing a bit. But to be able to understand how it works in the team, it gives an idea of which challenges we might have when bringing together people sitting in different places. If we look at, for example, a dimension called power distance, how we are with hierarchy when it comes to, and if we compare two countries here, Sweden and Ukraine, we can see that the power distance is very different. It's very high power distance for Ukraine, which means that one might be less likely to have questions and to speak, to question, for example, what the leader says, what the team leader says. While in Sweden, there's a lower number of power distance. There is more of a discussion-based work environment. And then one can instead feel forced to speak sometimes and forced to have an opinion. But these two will affect how likely it is for one of us to speak at first in the meeting itself. If you want to look in more to that, you can Google Hofstede's cultural dimensions. How can we then make people feel part of the team? How can we make them feel involved? What is that we can do to make people speak? Now we know that it is important to make people feel included and speak when it comes to creating good new ideas. But what concrete can we do to make that happen? What do you say? What can we do in the meetings? What can we do outside of meetings? Any idea of what it is that we can do? Ask for the opinion of everybody. Good, great. Very important. It will help to make people speak and to feel like they can say things. We will clear out that, hey, I want the opinion of everyone. Good. Anything more we want to share? Ask more questions, find other ways for people to tell their opinion, polls, etc. Great. When we work in remote teams and we use all of these digital tools, there are multiple ways to make people speak without actually forcing them to say their opinion directly in the meeting or directly with their voice. As we all know, that speaking in front of others can be very scary for many, many of us. And then it's important to create different ways to make people feel safe in doing it. And polls is a great way to do it. Give them responsibility to perform and follow up on things that has been said to show that their opinion carries some weight. Great. It's important to show that we have heard what people have said and to make sure that we follow up on what we have said to do and that we have listened to them. To get to know each other, so also questions that is not work related. Great, yes, it's very important to get to know each other. And I'm reading here from the chat, and I'm happy that you're getting warm in the clothes, you're getting involved. I love it. But yeah, social bonding is very important to create trust and to make sure that we get involved. Ask for opinion, not always verbally, but also in writing. Yes, we can do it through the polls, as mentioned before, but also through emails, through chat, through different types of ways. And we will look at this question from a lot of different perspectives. And we will start with some general aspects that are from research of how to create effective teams that work remote. First of all, it's about clear communication from leading positions. It is important that the leaders communicate what is it that is expected from you as a member of the team. It's also important to inform members about challenges when working remote. For example, maybe it's a challenge to not take enough breaks during a day. And that will in turn create a person that is more tired and maybe feel like they want to deprioritize certain meetings. It's important also to show clear roles and expectations and create a common view of the work process. If we work Agile or in Scrum, we have a lot of these things built in the processes themselves if we do them in the correct way. But we can also work with projects in other ways. And then it's extra important to create this common view of the work process. And just as Siri mentioned here in the comments, social activities online and in person. We need this to create trust. We need this to make everyone feel like they are part of the team and that it's important to be part of the team. It's part of this motivation that was also mentioned in the comments earlier. These are some general needs on a more general level. Now we will look into even more specifics, what we can do outside of meetings. That is to make sure that we have a social forum for coffee break talk. The talk that you have when you meet someone by the coffee in an office, so that we get to know each other. And one of the rhetorical reasons why this socializing is so important is a thing called identification. And that is that we trust people that we feel are like us. And that is and then we can be like others in so many different things. It can be which coding language that we like. It can be if we like cats or dogs. It can be which type of coffee we like, or if we don't like coffee at all. All of these small things will give a sense of that we like the other person and that we feel like they are part of our group. So that is why socializing is very important. We can also show that we care through checking in if someone is missing. Hey, I saw that you didn't attend the meeting this morning. Has something happened? These are stuff that we would do if we work in an office. We would notice if someone is not there. It is not as easy to notice when we work online and when we don't meet each other. So to remember to do that also when we work remote is very important. Another thing is to make sure that we bring up birthdays and holidays. And if we do, make sure that we bring up multiple holidays and from different religions and not only those from some. Otherwise, we can use a more neutral language, say happy holidays instead of a Merry Christmas, for example. If we know that a lot of people in the team are Christian, for example, then we can say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to create a more inclusive environment and make sure that everyone feels seen, as was talked about before in the comments. And this is all to make sure that we all become one group and we don't create distance between each other. I see far too often people communicating, sending emails that are only focused on the Christian holidays, for example. And then just make sure to add happy holidays as well. And there is a Swedish translation of that as well that one can use. So make sure to, if one is gonna greet holidays, make sure to have a bit more wide perspective. Those were general things. Now we will go into concrete what to do in meetings. What can we do concrete in the meetings to make people feel involved? Do you have anything more that you want to share? We can ask for opinions. That was connected to meetings. We can have a clear agenda. Great. Important to make sure that people feel that they are that we know what's going to happen. Clear agenda, super important. Video on, yes, very important. When we have the video on, it also helps to create the sense of us being a team, of us knowing each other. The body language communicates so much that is completely hidden when we only write in text. We have mentioned clear agenda. Also in the meetings, say the purpose of the meeting to make sure that that is vocalized, and also the takeouts that when we go from here, I want you to have this, or I want us to have decided this and this. Vocalize how to participate is very important. How should people participate, especially if it's in a meeting that is a little bit bigger, that we will participate through the chat, we will participate through just taking the microphone, we will participate through raising our hands, either in the camera or also on the functions that are in the meeting software. Allow for audio-only meetings for those who prefer that. Yes, that is also good to do, to allow for audio-only meetings if it is so that they cannot concentrate if it is a camera on as well. Otherwise, I would recommend to keep the camera on. Have check-ins in the meetings are very important, because when we meet in the office, it is easy to see that person is having a bad day. This person isn't feeling so well. But when we don't meet, it is basically impossible to understand how people are feeling, or if they've had a bad day. So have check-ins in the beginnings. Go around saying, how is everyone feeling? And then people can say, hey, I'm not going to be able to be so involved today. I have had a very bad night, for example. Breaks with specific times. I cannot put enough light on the importance of having breaks when working together as a team remote, because it is more hard to participate to a meeting when it is online than it is when we sit in the room. Often it takes more energy because it is harder to focus on what people are saying. And then having breaks are super important. One say that for physical meetings, one break every 45 minutes is a good standard to have. In digital meetings, I would say almost one every half an hour, especially if it is a meeting that is longer, 1, 2, 3 hours, then at least one break. It's important to have multiple breaks. Make sure to say the specific time. Often we say, let's have a 5-minute break. But then 5 minutes for people can be very different. So say a specific time that we're going to be back. We will be back at 12:45. That will prevent discussions from start before other people have, or all of the people have attended to the meeting. Otherwise, there is a risk that people start to speak about what the agenda is before everyone is there. There are some technical aspects that I'm sure a lot of you already have thought about and have implemented now throughout the COVID times, but I still want to put a little bit of light on it, and especially the reason of the camera, and also to fix the background. A lot of times I see that people have the window in the back, for example, and then the main reason of having the camera is destroyed. The main reason of having the camera is to be able to read each other's facial expressions and to be able to communicate more like we communicate when we communicate on site. If we have a window in the back or very bad lighting or something distracting, we are not going to be able to be visible enough in the face. And then the purpose of having the camera is destroyed. And in that case, I would say that it is better to only have the audio if your background would be too bad, or if you're not able to make a setting that is good enough to make sure that you're visible enough. Use headphones. Please use headphones. I don't know how many times that I have participated in meetings where people do not use headphones. And then there will be a lot of noise and sounds and distractions that will make it even harder for other people to participate in the meeting, and also hard to hear what you have to say. And when these digital problems are created, it really is hard to be involved and feel like one wants to be involved in the meetings. We spoke before in the comments about how to use, that we can use different ways to make people involved that are not necessarily speaking. And we have, for example, Mentimeter, Miro, breakout rooms, other ways that will make people say their opinion, but that they don't have to say it straight out. So try out different tools. It's good to use different tools even in smaller teams. because it can still be that some people feel like they are not able to say their opinion 100%, and then it can be good with these different tools. Now I want to go into communication mistakes that are made in hybrid teams. We have spoken about the importance of making people say their opinion, about how to concretely do it, but in hybrid environments, there are some bigger struggles and some more challenges. Which communication mistakes are made in hybrid teams? Have you, please share your thoughts. What do you think? What have you seen? When some people are sitting remote, when some people are sitting on site. The guys in the room forget about the ones on screen. Yes, good. I've seen it multiple times too. Some more. Tend to forget, not give enough attention to the online participants compared to those that are physically in the room. Yes. It's very easy to start to just talk a little bit with the neighbor, or in the break start to speak. All of these things that will also create a distance between people on site and people off site. Some other that you have seen. The headphones pick up each other's sounds. Yes. If you have teams that work on site and teams that work remote, one recommendation to do is that everyone sits by their own spot or in their own place. That makes it easy for everyone to participate on the same level. If you're not going to do that, make sure, if you have a meeting room, for example, where the people on site sit, make sure to have a proper microphone in the middle that you use, and not individual ones. Individual ones in the same room is not a good idea. Some of the big issues are that it becomes an uneven communication power. And with that is exactly what you have talked about in the comments, that it is harder for people on the screen to be involved, and it is easy for the people in the room to forget the people that are on the screen. To combat this, also, if we see that people in the room start to speak with each other, one can have as a rule that everyone raises their hand before they speak. So the people that are on the screen raises their hand in the program, or just if they have the camera on with the hand, and the people that are sitting in the room do the same. Since we know that in the digital meetings, one person has to speak at a time, it's important that also the people in the room speaks one at a time, in order for the hybrid situation to work to work good, and for the communication power to be minimized, so that everyone will stay on the same level and everyone will have the same ability to speak. It is also very common to have break discussions, that you continue the talk when you have the breaks with other people in the room. And this will or can also affect the decision-making process. That's why decision-making by the coffee is a really bad thing. So think about, where were the decisions actually discussed? And be kind to those of us that sit remote, and make sure that everyone has the same say in making decisions and in understanding the things behind the decisions. A lot of the time, it's easy to forget that we have talked about these things during the break. If it is so that you have started a good that you still start an important discussion on the break, in the break, make sure to recap for the people that sit remote when the break is over. To say, hey, sorry, we started to discuss about this during the break. We said that we said these different things. That will help in making people feel included in the team, even if some people are sitting on site and some people are sitting remote. No information ladder or information meeting. I have seen quite a lot of examples where after a while one feels that, oh, things are working fine. We don't need to have informational letters anymore. We don't need to have informational meetings. But those communicative ways are very important to make sure that everyone gets the same information. It's the same reason as why it's important to recap what we have said in a break, that everyone gets the same information. And that we decrease the communication power so that it is the same for everyone. I want to say some final concrete one-liners of what you can say to make everyone in the meeting, both on-site, off-site, to feel included and involved in the team. Which questions do you have? Here we do what you said in the comments. We ask the other people for questions. We assume that there are questions. So which questions do you have instead of do you have any questions? If you say do you have any questions in a meeting, it is very likely that you don't say the questions. Maybe you feel like, maybe I shouldn't take the time, maybe it's not important. So assuming that people have questions of what we are talking about it's a smart strategy. It's one word that has a big difference. Who wants to try a thought? Who wants to try a thought? Here we show that to be able to speak in this room, you don't need to have don't need to have the truth. You don't need to have a super thought about answer. You can just start to try a thought, and then the team will help to develop that thought. And this helps those of us that feels that it's hard to speak in front of others. And maybe it's a new person in the team. Maybe it's someone that doesn't feel like they dare to speak so much. Then if we open up with, say, try a thought, it helps a lot. We can also direct directly to a certain person, Hannah, I want to hear your thoughts. So to direct the question directly to a person that hasn't spoken so much is another way that we can do to make sure that people get heard. When people then say their thoughts, it is important to confirm those thoughts and to say thank you for the input. Show that you appreciate that people are testing a thought, that people are participating, that people are getting involved. One final part that I want to give to you is the sentence, those of us who. This is something that both creates inclusivity but also involvement in a team, to assume that it is people around us that feel a certain thing. For example, those of us who feel like this is hard, I will explain to. Instead of, if someone thinks that this is hard, let me know. It's a big difference. It implies that everyone is in the room, and that also there are multiple people that could have the same thoughts. So this is good to use in many different occasions. those of us who. These were the points that I wanted to go through with you today. We have spoken about the theory behind creating understanding. We have spoken about how to make people feel included in the remote team and common communication mistakes, both complete remote and also hybrid. You have also gotten some of my best one-liners when it comes to creating involvement and make people speak in the meeting themselves. I want to thank everyone for participating today. Hopefully you will have some tools in understanding how we can create inclusion in our teams and for teams to work as effective as possible, to create new solutions, to create good involvement. You being here is a big step to achieving this. And if you want to know more about Rhetoric, please connect with me, both on LinkedIn, but also you can send an email, you can send an SMS. Connect with me and let me know your thoughts. And then I will end with questions. So for those of you who have questions, please let me know. Write in the comments your questions. And thank you so much for today. Thank you. Thank you so much for attending. I will stay a bit more in the webinar if someone is riding, and otherwise I hope that I will see you on LinkedIn. It is really fun to connect with people there. And I also give out rhetoric advice on LinkedIn. Many people don't think it's comfortable or don't think adds anything to have the camera on. Do you have any tips on how to get more people to turn on the camera? Good question that came in here in the chat. One of the main things I think is that people don't see the purpose of it. And one of the purposes is to prevent people from doing multitasking. Because multitasking is also something that the science have proved is not anything that actually works effectively. Instead, it becomes a distraction. And in the team, we don't want distractions. We want the focus. Otherwise, you should have the meeting at another time if people need to work on other things. So to make people understand that multitasking is something that, or having the camera off increases the risk of multitasking is a thing we can do. And then also ask people, what is it that creates the feeling of it being uncomfortable to have the camera on? For some people, it could be that they haven't had energy to or possibility to clean the room, or that they feel like they look weird on camera. A lot of us feel like that. And then it's about practice people to have the camera on. And for example, then that have as a thing that in breakout rooms, you should have the camera on, but you don't have to have it in the big meeting if you have a lot of people in the meetings. That could be a way to start to get used to having it. Was that answer to your question? Hopefully. Any other questions that you want to bring up? I will give you one more minute and then we will end the webinar. I think Also, when it comes to the other question, often we maybe have heard that we should have the camera on, but not understood why. So hopefully, if we know why, it's gonna help to do so. But then if there are no further questions, I finalize with saying thank you so much again for attending. And Olaf got one. Okay, I will wait a little bit so that I hear this question. Thank you for giving me a heads up. For those of you attending this webinar on YouTube afterhand, please let me know on LinkedIn if you've seen the webinar and if you have any questions. Here we have a question. We are running a remote office, but find it hard to find non-middle-aged white men. I am afraid we see less diversity for remote positions. Is this the case? I don't know that actually. I think Maria would be better to answer that question from Developer Shore here, because I do not work with recruiting. But in general, I would say that the IT sector is pretty non-diverse, and we need to work with diversity in the IT sector. So in that, on the general note, I would say I see for sure the same thing. When it comes to remote, I am not. I don't know so much about the hiring part of it. So unfortunately, I don't know if I'm able to answer your question. But I know that there are studies that are made from different companies where you can see about how it is with working remote. So hopefully you could Google and find those. And also, if you look, there are some certain companies that focus on the diversity within the IT. So I'm sure that in those pools there would be other ways as well. Thank you. Thank you so much for your participation. Then we will say thank you and goodbye, and have a lovely day. I hope to see you all on LinkedIn. Yes, here we have from the comment an answer to that question as well, that I can connect to see. Yeah, good. Thank you, Jonas, for jumping in there. Then thank you and goodbye.